if you ask many people who consider themselves as high achievers, where are they now, and what would their 10-year-old self have said, kind of knowing where they are? Most of them would say, okay, my younger me would have been like just thrilled. But being where they are right now, it's kind of making them want more, because they often forget the why behind.
Welcome to Play It By Your Rules, the podcast for those tired of living by somebody else's script and ready to live and lead on their terms. I'm your host, Maggie Rombach, coach, speaker, and strategist. I'm here to spark a little rebel energy and leave you with a sense of possibility. Each episode, I'll talk to leaders, adventurers, experts, and changemakers who found their way. Some loud and bold, others quiet and intentional. You'll walk away with fresh insights, inspiration, and practical tools to chart your next chapter. If you're craving more freedom, flow, and fun, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Hello and welcome to Play It By Your Rules, my call for mindful rebellion, to challenge the status quo, find your voice, and just live more on your terms. And today we have another amazing guest. And as always, I'm always excited. So rather than me introducing you, let's play it by your rules. And I pass you right the word so you can introduce yourself, Dorota.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Dorota, and I think I play by many rules right now because I'm wearing different hats. By day, I'm a leader in AI startup. I'm leading go-to-market team. We're selling sophisticated AI technology, and my team is delivering that technology across Europe. So I'm managing them. But I've been also doing some side projects, some side businesses where I am coaching. So I'm certified brain coach. I'm also ICF accredited coach. And I mostly work with high achievers in their, from like top leaders, but also through mid-level managers, like senior people, helping them shape their career that is maybe a little bit less focused on just achievement, but more, satisfying and fulfilling, so that people don't just, keep chasing another goal, another success, but they can actually enjoy a little bit more what they are doing right now. And I think my work is also heavily focused on applying rest in a very strategic way, so that you don't constantly do something, but you also have those right moments in your not just year, but month and day to actually recharge and recover. On top of that, I'm also writing my own Substack that's called Strategic Off Season, and that's deeply about neuroscience, designing the environment that's gonna support you in your life and business, but also information around elite athletes and how they are training mentally their brains, and how we can apply this in business and also in life. So that's more or less, couple of points about myself, what I've been doing lately.
Wow, that's amazing. And I want to jump onto so many of those. I see so many connections. I don't even know where to start. So one I'm noticing that I find amazing because, I'm really curious about the whole topic of portfolio careers these days. When you have your main business, but then you start with your side hustles and you do many things. So I think you're another amazing example where you still have your main job, but who knows, maybe at one point your side hustles will take over and become bigger parts of your job. So that's really cool. Maybe I have one question I'm burning to ask you, but I pause it because maybe first let's look a bit more. What does a brain coach do? So you already mentioned a bit that you build in pause, but maybe if you explain a little bit more, what is the specificity of a brain coach?
Yeah. So my specificity is the tools I'm using and the way I've actually been trained as a coach. I did a certification that is based on neuroscience. So a lot of information, a lot of frameworks and tools I'm using when I work with my clients, it's around the power of your brain and how you can manage your thoughts, how you can, change the way you think, how you can rewire some patterns. But you can apply it in different coaching specialties. You can do life coaching, you can do executive coaching, you can do high performance coaching. For me, it's mostly work with high achievers. That is a little bit of mix of life coaching and the career coaching, if I can say so. So it's not necessarily the area of people's life you're working on, it's more the way you are using the tools and what's resonating with people. I always say that everyone, if they want to work with coach, they have to find something that's resonating with them. For me, it's neuroscience. So I'm really obsessed by that, and I'm trying to learn as much as possible about neuroscience and mental training, including visualization, because I think it's like a lot of science behind that makes sense. But you can achieve the same results working with a coach that is more, I don't know, like focus on spirituality or maybe on breath work. I think it just depends what resonates with you. So everyone has to find something that's gonna be convincing for them to actually want to invest time and energy in that work. So if a person is um, like topics that are more science based, and want to understand what's happening in your head, in your brain, and why setting goals is important, or why you have to understand your focus and keep maybe writing things down or keep repeating what you're gonna work on this year, this month. Then the neuroscience based coaching, which is called also brain coaching, I think can be a good option.
That's amazing. So let me ask you the question, which is quite a reasonable. So you mentioned your day business, your main gig is AI, and then you do the brain coaching. And this is something I've been looking into lately because, so I'm also really intrigued in body mind connection, neuroscience, mindfulness, bringing all of those pieces together.
Mhm.
And I started developing this hypothesis because, I really feel there's a risk that with the use of AI, we basically outsource our thinking. And if we do that too much and get too much into the habit of it, particularly younger generations, at one point we'll just lose our ability to think. So my hypothesis is that tools like mindfulness, like you say, taking a break and intentional use of AI can help us to get the most out of it. So to use the amazing potential of it without losing our own thinking capacity. So I don't know, as you're in both worlds, what's your reaction to that? What's your thoughts?
I think this is a very good question. I last week, so I'm right now actually attending a mental fitness bootcamp where I'm just training my brain. It's very focused on visualization, and we had a task last week to do. Uh, it was a little bit of couple of journaling prompts to think about. And then some people were using also a little bit of AI later on to challenge their answers, and some not. And we had a discussion about this. Okay, like how to what extent it makes sense to do that, to what extent it doesn't. I think you should be very mindful and aware where you're using AI. Because if you are thinking about, especially GPTs and the way they are built and patterns they are creating, they're very often in agreement with you. Like whatever you say, oh, great point, right? If you start challenging them, they're saying, oh, yeah, you're right. I'm sorry I missed that. And then they're just explaining, but basically they're going to follow whatever you wrote. So on one side, you can get uh, you can get a brainstorming partner in a person of GPT and get asked some questions. On the other side, it's making us a little bit lazy to think and to try to go deeper. And you're gonna be just steered by technology and the model inside in the direction of your challenging questions. While I think for like self-discovery, um, someone said in that training, I'm not gonna quote exactly, but it was related to that you kind of know yourself best. That was the meaning. So uh, no one can ask you, better questions or just really let you go deeper. Of course, sometimes it's hard to challenge yourself. That's why it's good to have a coach. That's why it's good to have someone challenging you. But for that first round of journaling and thinking about stuff, I personally think it's really good to try to do it on your own and just go as deep as you want and as deep as you can. But you need time. So you cannot expect to sit down 5 minutes. Okay, that's it. You need to have a time. You need to have an environment that's kind of also encouraging to do so. Instead of, having distractions, notifications here, now, and everywhere. But really, maybe 1 hour where you go through some journaling prompts and you try to think and you try to challenge yourself. Okay, is it actually true? Is it actually everything I have in my head? Or try to ask a second question. And maybe only then, when you really did your best, use sometimes AI to try to go deeper. Or preferably, use another person, a coach or someone that can actually challenge your thinking and force you to go deeper. Someone that knows you maybe and know which are the areas you are avoiding,
Mm.
to be a little bit more mindful of. So I think, just kind of reflecting to around what you ask, I think it's getting us being a little bit lazy and trying to do everything with AI. But I also see a lot of positives in terms of how AI can just take that burden of easy tasks
Mm.
where we are actually wasting our time. So I'm a big supporter of using it mindfully, like using it for sure. I'm using it a lot, but mindfully in the areas that actually would be a waste of your time so that you can then release that time and dedicate it to something meaningful. That's actually maybe something you are deprioritizing right now because the bunch of other simple stuff is just eating up your time.
Absolutely. And I think it also, as you say, I think you can also program it in new ways. As you say, GPTs tend to agree with you. But to give you a concrete example, I'm quite a bit into public speaking. I'm in a
Mhm.
Toastmaster club, so we practice
Yeah.
speaking all the time. But it's quite recent. So at the beginning, I was so intimidated about those speeches. I, had ChatGPT help me draft the speeches. And then I worked with a voice coach, and that was really purposefully. I didn't use AI at all because the whole point was to really learn to, craft my speech, like the skill to learn it from like really old school. And now I developed my own GPT to help me with my speeches. But basically, I programmed into the GPT. I mean, programmed, I'm not a programmer. I just told it to not write the speech for me. So,
Mhm.
so it'll help me with the thinking, it'll challenge me. I also ask it to challenge me to not always agree. And it's actually pretty cool because what I see happening is that just by the way how you give instructions, you can already mitigate that a little bit. You can already ask them to not do exactly
Mhm.
what you explained, which I think is indeed the risk that you feel like I read that even worse for teenagers or younger people, that where group acceptance is such an important thing, where you don't want to be challenged even if you need to be challenged, that there are more and more cases where teenagers prefer to talk to a GPT because they agree and they reassure them
Mm.
rather than talking to real people that might be more controversial. So indeed an interesting field that is
Yeah.
evolving.
That's scary, unfortunately, but it is true. It's
Yeah.
happening everywhere.
So tell me a bit more. So you said you work with high achievers, high performers. So what are typically, when do they come to you? What is the problem they're coming with? Or what's the initial
Mhm.
task they come with that they ask for help with?
Yeah. So I think over the last few years that I've been focusing on that, I would say I created my own framework, which is referring to let's call it 4 different areas, and the fifth level, which is just putting it together. First of all is that alignment, or really understanding what are your real values, so what's the why. So people are often, if you ask many people who consider themselves as high achievers, where are they now, and what would their 10-year-old self have said, kind of knowing where they are. Most of them would say, okay, my younger me would have been like just thrilled, right? Because I only could have dreamt about it in the past. But being where they are right now, it's kind of making them want more, because they often forget the why behind that. Like if you start understanding, okay, why do you want to, I don't know, have more money or get a promotion, right? There's something behind that. And often you go to, when you kind of start digging deeper, you get to some kind of value related to that. Either it's a time that they want to spend traveling, discovering world, or time with family, with just maybe taking care of kids, sometimes parents, sometimes it's the way they want to be able to learn more and grow, right? Different values, but they are forgetting about that. So first is that aspect, okay, let's go back to the values and what's behind your why, and then see whether maybe you actually forgotten that you can actually achieve it already. But you're still waiting for, okay, let's get me to another promotion so I can have even more money. But they are not using that money because they're constantly at work, or they are constantly canceling holiday plans because XYZ, client, business, whatever, right? So I think that's one area, just to understanding, okay, what's your purpose and what do you want in life? And like, okay, hello, are you sure you don't already have it? Maybe. So just start maybe enjoying it. The second area is what I called a little bit, around subconscious reprogramming. So just trying to understand their mental patterns, that self-talk, those repetitive behaviors that are coming from identity. And very often, something that actually has been formed in childhood, because that's where the most of stuff is happening. So, it's not about, playing a therapist or anything like this. It's more about just starting to become aware of what are the things that you are being like what are being repetitive, and what you're repeating in your life, and just start spotting them so you can think whether you want to change them, and which way you want to change them. And it is, I think that's very, very broad topic, because it's, it can relate to everything from personal life to career, business, to even, the way you are thinking about yourself. So that's the second area. The third area is often related also to boundaries. And by boundaries, I mean, like, high achievers, they always want to appear as the best ones, as, the top performing ones. So per se, I think from especially work stuff, but also personal life, you never want to say no, because saying no would mean, okay, she or he can't do that, right? Oh, yeah, I thought you actually can do that. You can't. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm going to ask someone else. So, you don't want to say no. And because you're not saying no, you're ending up doing much more than everyone around you. I think that's something that we see often in consulting world. Like I've spent there almost 10 years, and the best performing people were usually being asked to handle the toughest projects. Right? So like your performance, the recognition for that actually was either more work or harder work. And then you never said no. So, okay, let's give that person another project. Like, she or he will always make it, right? Because it's a high performing person. And of course, there's some kind of recognition in maybe faster promotion, higher salary. But in the end, you are going in that loop of, always getting doing more work and always being, tired, never really being able to rest and recover. Um, so that was the third area. Uh, excuse me. So we were covering the values, the subconscious reprogramming, the boundaries. Um, and now I have a empty head. What's the fourth one? The last one is about putting it all together into conscious life, and just trying to. I call it purposeful high life. So you are actually putting all the things together, and trying to kind of make it work for you with those boundaries, with all those elements. Um, but there is also the last, just let me have a look at my notes because I don't want to lie about the last area. Confidence. I reminded myself. So the confidence, I think it can be understood in two ways, because one is that external one, that we are appearing to be confident. And I think we're more talking here about the self-confidence. So high achievers always or very often appear to be very confident externally, but internally you have that self-talk, you have those thoughts somewhere coming, that element of subconscious reprogramming, or actually the old programming that is not serving you, and you don't believe you can do things. So, you might be doubting yourself. And again, it's all connected. So you think that, okay, I cannot stop doing something, or I cannot say no because people will think that I'm not that good anymore. So, you are not setting up boundaries because you don't feel self-confident enough that someone will just take it in the right way, or you think that you will lose your status because you do something or you don't do something. So then it's just making them not taking some decisions, not doing things, and as such they're not often going into, like, following their dreams or achieving what they want, and they're kind of preventing from that really purposeful high life to happen, because on paper you have money, you have status, you have everything, but you're not using it in the way you want to. It looks good externally, but you don't feel it's something that you actually enjoy.
I'm really fascinated because that so resonates. And I feel like, because I call my method the mindful rebellion method, but
Mm-hmm.
basically it's the same with different names for the different
Mm-hmm.
boxes. And
Mm.
the more I talk to um other coaches and people in that space, I feel like I start living in this bubble where I feel like that's the norm. But the thing is, and I guess that's why you're in that business, why there are many other people in that business, is, it's kind of obvious when you hear it to say, like, oh yeah, we should be clear on our values, and we should work on our subconscious programming, which I call the internal script. But to actually do it, it's really, really hard, isn't it? So it's one thing to becoming even aware. I mean, I think that's always the first step, because what
Mm-hmm.
I also experience with high performance is that often we are so busy running in the hamster wheel, we don't even have the time to stop and think about if we're going where we want to go. And then when you have the moment to stop and think, and you go like, okay, then you might get aware, okay, yeah, I should be working on all of that. But then to know where to start and to actually do it, that's not that easy, right?
Yeah. Yeah, like you're completely right. I kind of see the same, and everywhere around me. Um, like noticing is one thing, but then having a way, I don't know, I usually call it a system or something that will make you actually want to work on things. Because so many people will just, okay, maybe they will notice. But then what does it take actually for you to start doing that first step? Like people want to get results quickly, right? If it's not coming, then like just being in that discomfort zone, like you have to do something. you don't see results, or you just stop doing that, or you don't even go into that discomfort zone because like whatever you actually realize, it's already in like so uncomfortable for you that you don't even start. Um, so I think it's really important for you to like for everyone, right, to start thinking, but and also trying to do something. Like just thinking will not change anything. And we are our brains are very, I think I would say, convenient, right? Um, we don't have so much energy capacity in your prefrontal cortex, so it's trying to automate everything that's possible, and it's leading your life based on known patterns. So that's why, if you don't work consciously on things, you're going to just repeat the same decisions and the same mental patterns. So start working on that, but then being very mindful, because if you don't do it consciously, then again, the brain will try to take shortcuts and come back to, every time it's going to be uncomfortable, it's just going to run away.
You know, actually, what comes up now is I'm thinking about where we started this conversation, about us being more and more used to getting quick answers from AI and other quick fixes. And this is still quite recent, right? I mean, AI is now around for like 2 years, like the big
Mm-hmm.
language models.
Yeah.
Because, I just feel like what you describe, indeed, it's slower progress. Maybe at the beginning, it's not so obvious. You have to establish new habits. You might have to, take 2 steps forward, 1 step backward. So as we're getting so used to instant satisfaction and instant replies
Mm-hmm.
and just getting stuff quickly, we might be even less willing to do the small, slow stuff where we don't see the immediate results. And that's exactly where we need to keep going, because that's where over time it builds up. There are many books like Atomic Habits and all
Mm-hmm.
these other books that have the evidence that if you keep on doing small changes every single day over time, that'll become bigger changes and bigger progress. But you have to show up consistently, and you have to keep going even when you don't see the immediate results. And that's the tricky bit, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And I actually like thinking about, comparing yourself to yourself in the past. So take a, either annual comparison, like where have I been a year ago, right? Where am I now? Just so that you can actually notice the movement and that things are changing. Versus, of course, comparing yourself to others, because that doesn't make sense, right? You cannot, you will not have apples to apples comparison, because everyone started at a different time. They had different amount of time and energy that they could have invested in something. So I think comparing is good, but only if you compare yourself to yourself in the past, and look at that. But I think, I like what you said about those instant gratifications, and something that we are expecting. I think for this, I like two things. Like one is like this system that, or this process that you can create for yourself, that, okay, what would that success mean to me? Which can be something that, James Clear is saying in Atomic Habits, like make it impossible to fail, right? Make it, the first step as small as possible so that you actually do it. And then you can celebrate that. So just applying that you will not only celebrate the end goal, but you will have some kind of milestones on the way, of including those very, tiny ones that can give you daily gratification. But the second thing that I've been thinking a lot lately is the metaphor related to athletes, how they are training. Like, to me, it's fascinating how, and you can spot it. Like, I'm recently watching a lot of tennis, and I think tennis is the perfect game when it's visible so much, because it is such a mental game that you can see the difference between the best players and the elite, usually in the mental aspect. Like, everyone is playing amazing at that level. It's mostly how they mentally are, prone to situations and how much they can handle. But the way athletes are training, it just sometimes take them years to change like small thing. But they are doing it. They are, showing up every day to do a training, right? Even like, especially when they don't feel like doing it, right? And I would say regular person, if they don't feel like doing something, they just don't do that, right? And I think those are the most important test moments. Just, keep showing up, whether you like it or not, keep doing the thing, and then you will see that change. But like, it's great, not motivation, but inspiration for me rather, looking at that athletes patterns, what they're saying, how they are also explaining their mental work and their physical trainings. And this is making me more convincing because it's like a tangible proof of someone really achieving the impossible. But it's not happening just like that because they thought about, oh, I'm gonna be great. They just put so much hard work into that.
But so I'm a huge fan of that, and I use that a lot in my podcast as well. So I compared with all sorts of sports. So just two quick examples. One, marathon training, or like any running training, any sports probably, you build in breaks into the training, which we tend not to do at work. So I think that's an important
Mm-hmm.
one. The other bit, I'm also more and more into, mindfulness, but also sophrology. And then I learned sophrology is it's not so well known. It has a lot to do also with visualizations. It's a
Mm-hmm.
bit like neuro linguistic programming, but not exactly. So to explain it, I looked it up a bit. And interesting, so it's apparently really somewhere between France, Spain, and Switzerland, because it was funded by somebody, I think originally from Colombia, but he lived in Spain. Anyway, so it's not well known. But one of the
Mm-hmm.
early tests they did to prove the effectiveness of these mostly positive visualization techniques is they trained one of the national ski teams with it, and they didn't tell anybody about it. And then those guys just performed amazingly. And then only afterwards, they told that they used visualization techniques to basically go down the slope
Mm-hmm.
before they do it. So it's absolutely fascinating. And I'm sure for different sports, there are many different lessons that can be drawn from that. And just because you mentioned tennis, one of those days I came across a speech by Roger Federer where he talked to some graduates.
Mm-hmm.
And what I thought was really interesting about that speech, because of course he's one of the best tennis players ever. And he won, I think he said he won 80% of the matches he played. But the important thing, he said, the points, he only won 56% or something, like just over
Mm-hmm.
50%
Yeah,
of.
54, I think, or
So you
55.
watched it too. And I
Yeah.
thought it was super interesting because I also feel like in work, we feel like we always have to be the top of the pops.
Mm-hmm.
We don't look
Yeah.
at the long game or the infinitive. No, Simon Sinek, how does he call it? It's not the infinitive game, the long game. Anyway, like there's a book by
Yeah, I would.
um, and I think that's also reassuring to say, like, okay, even if you lose a match, like a ball, if you lose one step of the match, it doesn't mean you lose the match. So also
Yes.
to give yourself a bit of leeway to say, I don't always have to over deliver and overperform every single thing I do, right?
Yeah. Yeah, great kind of analogy. I actually was writing a Substack last week about this. Also, linking that speech. Because I think that's why I think tennis is really great example to learn also how to live. Like, you have every single point, and especially the big ones that are winning you a set or a game, they're so important. Um, but then, even if you lose, you have the next one, right? So it's essential for a tennis player to just be able to quickly come back after a lost point and just kind of start play like nothing happened, right? And that statistics from Federer is just saying it all, right? You know, you were never winning every point. The best players, they're just losing different situations. And every I've been in that article of mine, I've been referencing like few videos from the recent Australian Open, where basically the biggest games, they were won simply mentally. So whoever was better to handle those pressure points and whoever won more pressure points, they just won the game.
Yeah. Also resilience again, right? It's really a
Mhm.
story of resilience. So I
Yeah.
definitely find that article and I attach it to the show notes. Because the other example that just popped up at the Winter Olympics that just happened.
Yes.
So I'm originally German, and there was one of the German skiers, the women, she was, I mean, she just basically, it was slalom, I think. She basically got her skis mixed up at the first slalom gate and was out of the, and she was in the upper, she was really likely to win one of the medals. And I think again, mental, like being able to mentally prepare and to relax in the moment, it can make such a
Mm.
huge difference. And of course, there's a lot of bad luck adding to it if that happens. But yeah, maybe sometimes when you put too much pressure on yourself, or it's just too much, then that might lead to an outcome that, it can really make the difference whether you win or you don't win.
Yeah. I actually don't believe much in bad luck or luck. I think it's us creating it, either positively or negatively, because of the way we are thinking and we're behaving and how much stress pressure we are able to handle. And then, to me, bad luck is more that, you were not able to handle some pressure. So you were stressed out that something happened, or there is some kind of energy that you are absorbing. And then the filters you're putting in your head because you're too stressed out, you're thinking about the worst cases that can happen, and then they're just happening because you made them happen. But that's my philosophy based on really, the last years of studying everything. I think we're creating our own luck and we're creating our own bad luck.
Yeah. So if I'm a listener now and I'm really fascinated by all of this, by the sports analogies, by your framework, the whole neuroscience, is there one little bit, like just a little exercise, just something where, where could the listeners start right away, either for their awareness or to try something out? What could be one concrete thing they could just.
I think there are, few of them that I'm lately, let's say, encouraging people to do. One small, very small thing is just changing the way you are thinking about situation or what you do in life. And I love the not just internal talk, but the words we are saying about work, for example. Oh, I have to go to work, or I have to have that call. I think this is instantly putting us in the situation that you are being forced to do something. What I like is to actually change it to the wording, I get to do things. So instead of building that mindset that I have to, and this is an obligation, we move it to the situation that I'm choosing to do so. Because if you have to do something, then you're being forced. Like, are you actually being forced to do your job or do you want to do it? So then you get to have that meeting, or, you have a meeting, but you are not being forced. So just change this narration in your head and how you are also telling other people, okay, I get to get up in the morning and go to work, right? Because I'm healthy, I'm happy that I actually have a job instead of, oh, I have to go there and have those terrible meetings. So that's one thing that I
Let me
like.
just jump in there because I
Yeah.
think it's really powerful. Because I used to, back in my previous life, I worked for Procter and Gamble, and there we had this whole thing. At Procter and Gamble, you don't have problems, you have challenges,
Mm.
and we were always, laughing about it, saying like, yeah, that's the brainwash, and but actually, it's super powerful because it's similar to what you explained. Like if you say I have a problem, you tended to look for all the reasons why it doesn't work. You really go into the what is the problem. When you call it a challenge, it automatically gets you into solution mode.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
words really matter. So yes, that's really important.
Yeah.
But yeah, you had another one.
And they're small words, right? I think the another one is to add powerful word yet to
Hmm.
things don't know how to do or we can't. For example, I haven't sold anything, right? Yet. So if you add this is the growth mindset technique from Carol Dweck. I think she's writing a lot about that, how we can grow our mindset constantly. And if you have growth mindset, then you are seeing possibilities versus the let's say more static mindset that you don't believe you can learn and you can evolve. So I think that can be also very powerfully used across different areas of your life. And I really like the stuff about trying to be more, less apologize and being more grateful, not just to yourself, but maybe also to others. And the one small thing that I have started practicing a while ago now, and I'm selling it to everyone, it's if you are late to a meeting by a couple of minutes, instead of saying, oh, I'm sorry I'm late, just say, thank you for waiting, right? Or appreciate you waiting for me. Or, you know, really, if you're asking for changing the meeting, or appreciate your flexibility versus, oh, I'm sorry, I have to ask you this, right? So, it's again like it's not a big deal sometimes, and we're treating it as the end of the life. Okay, and I have to apologize. No, like let's just try to shift it in other narration, and I think that's gonna be more positive for us.
I really like that. Thank you. It's so simple and it's
Yeah.
so powerful. And another one to ban from your life, and I'm pretty good at it, but still sometimes get stuck. But to really get into this habit to not say yes, but yes,
Uh,
and it's often really these
yeah.
small words that can, they do make a difference.
Yeah, because this is how those patterns are created in your head, and the way we mentally think and structure ideas.
Yeah. This is amazing. I'm a bit conscious of time, so we'll jump into the quick fire burst question, but you'll have a moment afterwards to close on a high note and with more tips to our listeners. So you're ready to go for the quick fire
Yes,
burst questions.
let's do that.
Excellent. You know the drill. I shoot a question to you and I challenge
Yeah.
you to answer with one word or like one idea. One word is really
Mhm.
hard. So, one belief you had to drop to live your way.
That's definitely the perfection.
A place that cracked something open in you.
Lately, I would say the tennis court. I think I'm playing myself recently, but also watching a lot. That's making a big difference in the way I think and I try to approach things. It's really
It's cool.
great sport.
I have to look more. I'm not a tennis person, but I really like your analogy. So I'll be looking more into tennis. I like that. One thing you had to unlearn.
Willpower. So I think, I've been saying that I used to say that I have a strong willpower, but I think it's in reality, it's more the discipline. And I think
Mm,
that's what we should be looking for, the discipline. There is something about motivation, but motivation, I think it's very fluent. So I like to approach it more as a discipline. Just build your discipline, your systems, and your environment that's gonna help you instead of counting on willpower.
I like that. And I saw that recently that the whole um distinction between motivation and action. So it's not you have to be motivated to do something. Sometimes by doing you get motivated. It
Yeah.
goes both ways. So yeah, I like
Yes.
that discipline. So you're non-negotiable right now.
If you ask me that, let's say a couple of years ago, I would say sport and activity, but now I say recovery. Again, that's a sport analogy, another one, because I think that's the. I personally became good in my non-negotiables, and I have few of them. And the recovery is the one that I would say I'm working the most on right now. That's why it's the first thing.
Yeah, it's so important. Ba, ba. And the boldest risk that you took and that paid off.
I've been thinking about this one, and I wasn't sure, but I think simplifying is a good one because it's very broad, but I've been trying to be very risky with simplifying everything I can. And I think that's been so far really, really good in terms
So
of
how
the
would that
results.
look like concretely? Would that mean like, I don't know, get rid of people in your life that are, bad energy, or, like concretely,
Yeah.
what's the risk part of it?
Uh, I think, I would say everything, right? It can be from like relationship, just really quality over quantity, but also simplifying in terms of like having less so
Mm.
that you less worry. Just being very simple with the way you approach even your meals, just or your day. Just okay, this is the thing on like making the decision based on five first option you find. So you have a risk of okay, I'm not gonna dedicate more time to discover other options. Maybe I'll find something better, but let's make it simpler. Let's make it faster also from the decision to results. Just accepting the risk that it might not be perfect. So again,
Mm.
dropping the perfection, but the time to results is more important. And actually, the potential time invested in whatever effort probably wouldn't have generated such a difference in the result.
So it's also a bit the risk of missing out, which is actually not such, so actually you don't really miss out on so much, and what you win is so much more than what you
Yeah,
might have missed out on. That's really
yeah.
cool. I like that. So one word for your leadership or your life in this chapter.
I would say intentional. Intentional in everything. What you pick, where you invest time, energy, attention. Just trying to be mindful and consciously decide on life rather than, just autopilot.
Absolutely. And then the last one is, what is the ripple you hope your story creates?
So I would phrase it in one word saying permission. That actually people, I hope that will help people to generate that permission for themselves to just do things differently, just let it go. Um, be okay with, you know, not following stereotypes or just take that risk.
That so resonates. I just feel like, our work seems to be really aligned, because yes, I think that's actually, it sounds simple, but again, giving that permission to people, or letting people give
Mhm.
that permission to themselves, that would be a pretty amazing change to bring to the world. So thanks so much for playing along. That was already it. They're quite short, those questions. So as we're closing this out, and if somebody listening is now really inspired and would like to start doing something, you already gave some tips. Is there anything else you'd like to share with them? Where could they contact you?
Yeah.
So what else would be relevant for them to know?
Something that I can recommend from my own resources is doing it's a quick test where they can assess themselves across the high achievers pillars that I've been describing. So I have this as a freebie. We're gonna share the link, so you can also put it in the episode. But I think that's one interesting resource that can force people to reflect a little bit. I've been hearing very positive feedback from people around that, so I highly recommend that. The second place to find me is Substack. I write the strategic off season under my name, so you can find me there. I'm trying to blend a little bit of neuroscience, sports psychology, environment design with business, leadership, and life. I'm also on LinkedIn by my name, so it's not hard to find. And Instagram, Mind by Dorota. So those are the places where they can find me, or my website. Again, just my dorota.Kosiorek.com, so my name.com. Yeah, I think that's the best place to find me and reach out to me.
Fantastic. And IB, certainly, I find that article, I want to read it too. So
I will share with you.
cool. Well, thanks so much. It was a real pleasure. And yeah, have a
Thank you so
nice day.
much. Thank you so
Bye.
much. Bye.
That's it for today. If this stirred something in you, don't just sit on it. Do something, anything, today, right now. Take one small intentional step toward more freedom, flow, and fun. And see where the ride takes you. If this hit home, follow the show, share it with a friend, or leave a review. That's how we ripple this energy further. Want to go deeper? Head over to mindset/mastery.ch for coaching, tools, and next steps. Until next time, trust your gut, stay curious, and keep playing by your rules. Bye for now.